Steve McNamara, General Secretary of the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association, who've organised today's protest, who joins us now. Steve, I feel like one of us is stalking the other. We seem to speak on a daily basis.
It's all good. Let me tell you, I'm standing in the middle of Trafalgar Square with a good few thousand of London's finest, and I've just been handed a notice by a police officer that tells me that under Section 14.3 of the Public Order Act, I've got to comply with certain conditions, or I'm going to listen to this. Failure to hear will lead to arrest and prosecutions.
And what is are you standing? Are you standing in Trafalgar Square? Are you in your cab? Where are you?
No, I'm walking in Trafalgar Square. So not only can't 10,000 licensed London taxi drivers drive on the streets of London, I now, as a citizen of this city, and I've lived here all my life, now can't walk the streets of this city without being given a notice telling me what I can and can't do.
We discussed yesterday. The Metropolitan Police said you hadn't given them official notice of the planned route and what was happening, so they could make sure there was minimised disruption and deal with, for instance, like the issue of emergency vehicles getting through and the like. Is this related to that, or is it they're handing them out to everybody in Trafalgar Square?
They're handing them out to everyone. Let me tell you, Julia, they are causing the problem at the moment. They're closing roads left, right, and centre. It's only 1:30. Hardly anyone's got here yet. And already the centre of the city's come to a halt. We can go home virtually. The police have done it for us. What is happening here in London today, and people around the country need to be aware of this. What is happening here in London today, the police in London are being used as the political army of the Mayor of London to stop people raising protests against what he is doing and what the Transport for London are failing to do. It's all down to Uber's money. An American conglomerate have come over here. Not only have they bought Transport for London, they've now got control of the mayor and he's controlling the police. Somebody needs to look at what's going on.
Can I ask Steve McNamara, is this the case that you believe the Transport for London, the Mayor of London, his office, that they have been bribed by Uber?
No,
is it your contention that they are afraid of Uber? What's your contention?
I would tell you that I would suggest, I don't know why they're doing it, to be honest with you. I can only but guess that they're frightened of Uber. Uber's that sort of money, it's $18 billion this morning, buys an awful lot of column inches in the Nationals. It buys political lobbyists, as you'll be aware. It buys all sorts of influence in the corridors of power in Whitehall, and it now obviously buys influence in City Hall. I'm not suggesting for a moment that Boris has taken a brown envelope or any of his people have, but what has happened is they've been influenced, they've been got at, they've been twisted, and this is the result. Somebody needs to look at what's going on in this city. This is really, really worrying, Julie.
Can I ask you, though, when you talk about buying column inches, all the publicity for Uber, I think there are probably millions of people, even in London, who'd never heard of Uber until you started protesting against them.
Well, if you'd have been reading the heavyweights in recent weeks, you'd have seen
I read papers occasionally, yeah.
Well, I'm sure you'd have been some rather extraordinary articles in the likes of The Guardian. You wouldn't expect The Guardian to be running the sort of stuff they've been running. I've done radio interviews this morning with Leon Daniels of Transport for London, and they're saying, well, there are issues with Uber, but is it a big deal? And of course, the question is, we're here for what we here as the taxi trade in London, supported by the minicab industry in London, that needs to be remembered, have not got an issue with Uber. This is all about TfL not enforcing the law, not enforcing their own laws. And when the minicab industry agree on it, we agree on it, and it's getting particularly worrying that they're being allowed to get away with it.
You say not an issue with Uber. Am I not right in thinking that the Licensed Taxi Driver Association has actually taken out private prosecutions against 6 minicab drivers who use Uber?
No, we've taken out prosecutions against Uber because the authorities are failing to do it. We will be.
But you don't have an issue with Uber.
Well,
do you see how that doesn't really quite ring true?
What I'm saying to you, Julia, is no. Uber are breaking the law. If the regulator won't enforce the law, who will? We're taking the view that we'll take it to court, we're sure we'll get a conviction, and then we'll say to TfL, what are you doing? Why is it that ordinary people have to do your job for you? That is why we're doing it.
You say TfL are not enforcing law. They argue that there's this technicality that this app that is in the cars that are used by Uber, those licensed drivers, that it's not fitted. It's not fitted to the car in the same way that your taxi meter is, and therefore there is this technicality, and it's allowed. Is it the case that, and we will speak actually to the Institute of Directors in the next 20 minutes or so, that actually this is about being Luddites. This is about, you're no different to the 19th century century machine breakers who are worried about technology taking over their jobs. And actually, the world is moving on, things are changing, and actually what we need is not a tightening of regulations against Uber and other companies to enable you to continue with your work, but actually a loosening of regulations on black cab drivers so that you can apply for trade in different ways and perhaps adjust how you work and not be under the same regulation. As one driver said to one of our reporters today, you guys are regulated within an inch of your lives. Wouldn't it be better if we actually took away a lot of the regulation that's not needed, freed up the services which all of you could operate and offer more choice and more services to customers?
Look, Julie, if that's what's being suggested, then that's fine. Let's look at that. Let's look at relaxing the regulations. At the moment, the regulations we've got are here. And if they're going to be changed, fine, let's change them. Let's look at that. But what we're saying is they're here now and they're not being enforced. But more importantly, they're not being enforced against one company and one company only. Why? Why is this one company so different from everybody else?
Because they use a different app. No, well, hold on a minute. No. You know that there are other major companies like Addison Lee and other minicab companies, but they don't use the same app.
No, they don't. They don't charge using a meter. They don't put all their bookings through Holland. They operate out of licensed centres in London. They all comply with the law. If Uber do the same, we wouldn't be here today.
But my whole point is that Uber, the only reason why Uber are being allowed to do this is Uber's the only one who's doing this. If other companies use the same app, they would be in the same position, wouldn't they?
And anybody could use this technology. This is not some complicated software. The Addison Lee app is, I shouldn't say this, the Addison Lee app is much more sophisticated than Uber's app. They could switch a meter onto it tomorrow morning in 10 minutes if they wanted. But they've chosen not to, because they've chosen to operate within the letter of the law.
But realistically, this is the thing. Look, I understand your concerns about regulation of black cabs and the lack of regulation. I understand this. I'm not in a position, because I don't know the technology, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not in a position to make a judgment on this. So I'm going to stay. I'm not like James, but I'm not going to take one side or the other, because I'm only take one side or the other if I was in a position to make that judgment. However, given fundamentally, you've got loads and loads of different minicab companies across London and in many cities who are operating. You've got other major firms like Addison Lee. I'm not advertising them. They're the only big company I know that operates. Everyone knows who operates across London. What difference does it make to your drivers whether someone is using the Uber app or works for another of the major companies?
Well, what the difference it makes to us, Julia, is what we're saying. If we've got regulations, and you've already been to the fact that we're the most regulated taxi industry anywhere in the world, bar none. We're made to jump through hoops. We're made to jump backwards through hoops. We're made to do all sorts of things. And the private hire industry have their rules to follow. Now, if you're suggesting that we don't follow rules, we all do what we want, then fine, let's look at doing that. Let's have a race to the bottom. Let's have the situation where anybody can go out in a cab and anybody can... I know you're not suggesting that, but that's the ultimate bottom bit. And if we want to race towards that, fine, let's talk about it. But whilst you've got laws, we either enforce them or we scrap them. You can't have this selective choice as to what laws you enforce. Julia, I'm going to have to leave you.
Well, can I just ask, just before you do, I just want to ask, I was asking you, are the police still there? Are you about to get arrested?
I think so. They're getting very, very upset with me, and I'm just standing...
Well, you're simply standing there. Would you mind staying on the line while the police officer speaks to you?
They're getting quite irate.
Well, they haven't got the right to tell you to get off the phone to a national radio station.
I know they haven't got the right, but this is what is happening on the streets of this city today.
Would you like to ask the police officer to come on air and talk to me?
I'm talking to LBC. He's just indicating to me to put the phone down.
Can you ask him what on what basis is he asking you to put the phone down?
I'm going to walk away from you. I don't want to do that. I'm doing nothing. He's getting very upset now. Look, somebody needs to ask the mayor. You need to ask Leon Daniels, Peter Hendy, or the mayor why he's instructing the police to treat Londoners in this manner.
Can you ask the police officer which law you're breaking? We've lost him. We've lost his line. Well, I will keep you up to date on what happens to Steve McNamara, the General Secretary of the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association. I think we'll all agree, well, whatever side you're on or no side in terms of this dispute, this protest, people have a right to walk about London streets in Trafalgar Square, iconic Trafalgar Square, if they are not menacing other people, or to go about their law-abiding business, and certainly to talk to journalists on national radio stations.